I'm a little bit shorter, aren't I? Lovely. Okay, there's some typos in this one because my latest version is not on there, so apologies. I want to share with you our experience of growing restorative justice in London Probation. And I'm going to try and stick to the script because there's some good stories and I want them to come out and I can get diverted very easily. We started off by working in partnership with an established third sector agency, worked with CALM. They've provided restorative justice capacity in London over the last 3 or 4 years. But we also worked with Lena Knoll from Southwark Mediation. We worked and listened to Theo Gavrialdis from Rota. We looked at all the organisations around the Forgiveness Project. We had the fantastic resource of the Restorative Justice Council, which I'm so grateful for this conference today. And I'm sure that we must be unique in Europe to have such a phenomenal organisation like that, where they have resources and are eminently accessible and approachable, and we've learnt loads, so I want to thank them enormously. We'd already started running the pilot when the non-commissioning project started, really. So we have been learning from all the others. We've learned a lot from Thames Valley, we've learned from West Yorkshire. And what we're trying to do really is to see if we've got capacity, capability to do restorative justice. We don't know, we're probation officers. So the idea of the pilot was not to sort of see how many we could get through, it was to see whether we could adapt and whether we had the skills and whether we could grow capacity. So we looked at the profile. The profile was the profile that the literature said worked. I can't operate this as well, I don't think, Chris. I can't. Okay. We started off with, we did lots of research and everybody told us to go to Barbara Tudor. They were right. We had a fantastic training from Barbara Tudor. I would recommend everybody to her book. This is like essential equipment. It's absolutely essential equipment, and we just keep ordering more and more. And it's fantastic. She's fantastic, and she gave us our grounding, our enthusiasm, and we feel like we carry Barbara with us all the time. We have the literature base. You know, Shapron's recent book, it's fantastic, it resonates with our experience. There's oodles of things there that you can collect. So we're very lucky, we're coming, you know, as Shapron said, we're the new kids on the block, really. So we can look around, copy everybody else, but we've got some observations, as new kids often have. Many of our staff had taken part in those 2001 to 2004 trials. We had experts within the organisation. But what the Wait to Late document says about the protocols, we've really sat and listened to that, and we have got good partnerships with the Met Police, with CALM, with Thames Valley, I hope, Steve, and with West Yorkshire. And one of the things that you can do there, which I didn't mention on the last slide, is to work out how do you do that really hard bit, which is often contacting the victim in the first instance. You know, how do you manage to protect their human rights and not sort of poke about, asking them if they'll come and oblige you, and yet also sort of give them the opportunity. And the Kate Brooksbank, who Lizzie told me about, said to me that what they do is when they call, they say, oh hello, we're from a unit that works with offenders to try and get them to take more responsibility. Lovely, like a script question. Perfect. You are asking them, requesting, and you're working with it. And the new inspection that's just come out, the Police and Prison Inspection, talks very much about the skills you need to work with victims and to get them on board, and that it's worth it. You have to be persistent, but obviously not too much in their face. So, how suitable? That's the next one. See if I can do it. Yes, I can. We agree with the presumption in favour model as used by Thames Valley. We have a fantastic practitioner forum, which is how we're growing and learning from each other as we're all facilitators learning how to do it. And things become, as the new kids on the block, things become quite obvious. So Ruth, who's somewhere in the audience, there you are, Ruth, put your hand up. Ruth sits at the Croydon Crown Magistrates, and we get loads of referrals from there. I think you're top of our targets, not that we have any targets, but really, really good. And what Ruth recognised was that actually the women, lots of women referrals, because actually women travel to their remorse and their guilt quicker. And what she's saying is we need to be a bit more savvy with the lads, because they don't get there as fast. So, you know, you need to kind of sort of take a few risks and to look at the potential. And I'm very minded again of the, I went to a fantastic conference earlier this year at the Forgiveness Project. And Erwin James, ex-offender, journalist extraordinaire, talked about his time, I think, 20 years in custody. And he said, actually, when I walked the prison walk, he said that the men it was filled with remorse. You couldn't always see it, but it was there. So, you know, don't make assumptions, but sort of journey with people. Our experience, again, in London Probation, is that we feel the current push for face-to-face runs the risk of limiting the potential for healing, repairing harm and reducing reoffending. Face-to-face often just does prove impossible, and where it is, shuttle mediation has been restorative. What our facilitators say is that restorative justice happens in the preparation work. One small story I can relate is Edward. Where's Dina? She's over there. We've been working with Edward, who really couldn't remember whether it was blocked or whatever. All he knows is he got very drunk, walked into a shop, hardware shop in Croydon, ransacked it. The victim didn't want to do a conference, but they were happy to meet, so I sort of sat on a stool in the middle of the shop as he told the story. He told the story, a huge story, about the damage that he'd done. The offender was racist as well as everything else. When we relayed that story back with the victim's permission, Edward was he mortified, Dean, or was he mortified? He was mortified, wasn't he? And he was you know, one of those openings that people say you have in the conference. He was devastated. He realised all he wanted was a packet of fags. And he couldn't really believe he'd done that. He passed his apology, and I was able to do that shuttle. It was healing, it was effective. He apologised. But it wouldn't be appropriate to put those two together. He was a very young lad. He didn't understand drink. He was a Muslim, and he didn't really understand it. It was enough just to tell me the story. So diversity is very important. We've got another example, I don't know whether the colleagues are in the room or not, with one man had his bicycle stolen. He's too angry to go to conference. He did mention capital punishment at some stage, I think, in the discussion. So, but we used that energy when we went back and said, actually, the victim really doesn't want to see you. The victim's very angry. It creates a balance for us, it gives us more of a balance, it makes the intervention far more potent. So the specified activity requirement for us is a fantastic success. It gives us skills, it helps us to learn how to do more victim work. There's one letter, I think that's yours, Angela, isn't it? Where you worked quite hard to offer the other, and they didn't want a contact, and then they accepted the letter, and now I believe they want contact. Yeah, fantastic work on Angela's behalf. I've got this hourglass, it's not very good, it was late last night. I've gone far too forward. See, I told you I couldn't do it, Chris. And I've got about 5 minutes here. Chris, can you push it on for me, because I'm not going to get there. So the hourglass says, it's what you do before, and I got this from Laura Collins, it's most important, the preparatory. The conference is a small bit, if indeed it's a conference, and then it's the aftermath, and I'll show you that with a couple of cases that we're doing. So our challenges, we're not there yet, Chris, it's 3 back. The challenges are getting victim engagement, persuading them of the benefits while protecting their life, encouraging offenders to participate, and skilling our staff to recognise how you do it. Now I'm on to Jane. This is a couple of stories. Victim Jane was an 85-year-old woman, one of Ruth's cases, who believed Tanya's story and gave her money. She'd been duped. She felt stupid when she realised that. She was embarrassed when she told what the family had done. She was very clear. She wanted her money back. Go back. It's Tanya. Can you put Tanya on for me? Okay. You can just listen to me, really. The offender said she was ashamed of herself, but actually what you recognised was that the shame was quite shallow, I think is her offender manager said. She thought she'd really charm her when she got into the audience, because actually Tina could talk, Tanya could talk, she was great. So when she came out, she was really fed up. She felt humiliated, she felt that she hadn't really wowed the victim she wanted to tell the victim about her story, and she had a very sad story. But actually, as time went on, Tanya really got it, and so on that aftermath, as she was supported and she thought about it, she recognised that because she'd been a drug user when she committed the offence, she realised that 6 weeks before that, she wouldn't have been able to sit in the conference, she'd have stormed out. So the very fact that she could sit in the conference, listen, and I saw her just this week again, and she said, you know, why I found it so uncomfortable was because what that lady said was true. And I didn't really want to listen to it. But I'm going to give her her money back. And in fact, she was a very brave lady to do that. I'm going to give her a bunch of flowers. But, you know, as the lady said, the proof will be in the pudding. Let's see if she does it. Jean and Michael, in the second case, the harmer, Jim reversed down. I think I've gone over one there. But never mind, we're going over here. In the second case, Jim, the harmer, reversed down a one-way street and mowed down a young victim who was on his mobile phone. Jim himself, the offender, collapsed before the trial. He was so overwhelmed with guilt. And he reverted to he'd been an alcoholic in his early 20s. We worked with the victim, who really did want to meet with Jim, but in the end didn't. The victim completely recovered. We spoke with the victim's father, the victim was only 8 in the end. So
left over. and you go back to as quickly as possible. The offender is comfortably relieved to hear that the victims know of his remorse and wish him well, and they want him to get on with his life. Jim is relieved that he's not hated, and he can now face up to his responsibilities, and he's doing that with the support of his probation officer. Just to say very briefly that when Jim wrote that letter, he spent an hour with his facilitator with all the ideas that he had. He spent another 2 hours afterwards rewriting it until it was an exceptional letter. Ivan and Terry, where's Patricia? You're over there. Patricia, brilliant case that Patricia did. Ivan, drunk, stepped in the middle of the car, nearly caused an accident. The victim hit him first, actually, but when he retaliated, it was with a real retaliation, so that in the end, Ivan was the perpetrator. We had to work very hard with him until eventually he was able to take his part in responsibility and wrote a fabulous letter. Victim didn't want it, but we had contact with the victim who was happy that he wrote it, and he did accept it and he forgave him. The Hourglass, back to the Hourglass. We've got some really, really good conferences that are happening at the moment. We had one on a farm. Where is he? There we go, Andrew. I didn't think we'd get that, but Andrew's persistence helped that work. You know, we've got everything set up in the farm. Tommy texted us to say, I can't do it this morning. Can't do it this morning, Liz, don't feel very But actually, Andrew got on the phone to him and we got him up to that farm. We had this fantastic conference. We stopped the script halfway through and wandered round the farm so that the lad, little Tommy, could work out, he was quite small, could work out what he could do in terms of payment. So he's going to do 6 days voluntary work on the farm. Again, he's lost his bottle nearly, but we're keeping with it. So that's one thing. There's a lot of work before, there's a lot of work afterwards. We've got another guy who's assaulted a bus driver. We recognise that he's gang active. He's involved in a lot more serious stuff, so we have to work very slowly and skillfully with that one, but we are getting buy-in there. So our observations that offenders are more engaged than we expected, that our staff learn more about how to do more victim work, that's dynamite, that's gold, as Barbara would say. We need to attend more to the pacing and the sequencing in every case, take it steady. We need to recognise that some youngsters, we need to get on with it, otherwise they lose their bottle. With others, we need to go a bit steadier because they're not ready and they really don't get it. They don't get it at all, so we could do more harm. We're learning about how we can work with hate crime, how we can work with all sorts of areas. If the victim wants to meet with the offender, we recognise we need to honour that, even if we're a bit worried that they might say something that's not very nice. We tell the victim that. If they want to do it, then we might go ahead. We've learned, I was talking to Jeff the other day, about how to use those victim empathy work so that we don't go on and on and on about the victim when we're not going to have the victim there. We have to be a bit more savvy. We use lots of materials from the Restorative Justice Council from the Forgiveness Project. We look to issues around over-dominance when you've got a youngster and lots of adults, cultural issues that I just spoke about, we work there. I want to finish off, because I'm sure I've gone over. Am I okay? Is to mention that joint inspection, fantastic joint inspection that's just done by Prisons and Police, and talks again about the skill that you need with victim work. But to quote from a couple of recommendations from the front, and that comes from that, one of the offenders on the inspector said, they don't really push this in prison, everyone should do it. It makes you think about the victim 100%. The mother of a gun victim was reassured that her son was not involved in the offence and was caught in the crossfire. She couldn't come to terms with the loss of her son who'd been killed in Manchester. She wanted the conference. When she had the conference, she said it enabled her to move on in her life and remove much of the confusion she had suffered because she had so many unanswered questions. She felt better as her questions had been answered and she felt reassured. And finally, the indomitable Peter Wolf, who says, until my conference, as far as I was concerned, the victim was an A4 piece of paper. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much indeed. Numbers of themes there. Reference to the